Alright, one of the things we're going to do before winter, not necessarily a winter thing, but this truck had been timed for sea level in the Seattle area. And I'm now up just shy of 4,000 feet. So we're going to make sure the timing's right, especially before our trip coming up. What you're going to need is a timing light. We'll go over the parts on that. Distributor wrench. That may not be true on all vehicles, but certainly older ones. And a white grease pencil certainly helps. Flashlight doesn't hurt either. What we're going to do is, there's your distributor. All your spark plug wires coming over there, distributor cap, your vacuum advance right there. Underneath, you can see just left of that fuel filter, there's the fuel filter. And just to the left of that is a little hold down tab with a small bolt. And the best way to do it is that distributor wrench. We're going to take this, not sure if I'll be able to do it on camera here, and because it has an L, we're going to be able to sneak it down there on top of that wrench, and all we got to do is just loosen it just enough so that I can twist the distributor. I probably don't need to do this, but I have a feeling that I will want to change my timing since I'm at a different altitude. This is hard to do and film at the same time. Really, you just want it just loose enough so that you can move the distributor back and forth like that. And that's how you're going to change your timing. Next to the harmonic balancer down there, let me put it on low because that's a little better. Right there is a series of numbers and notches. Not sure which is better, on high or not. Right there. Now there's also a score mark on the harmonic balancer, and we'll go underneath the truck and we're going to mark that with the white grease pencil. Alright, there's two parts to a timing light. Usually out of the tail comes one wire with two little alligator clips to get power from your battery, and the other one needs to clip onto one of your spark plug wires. Now, other motors differ. For international motors, you don't time off of the number 1 cylinder. You actually time off of number 8, which is the back passenger side bank in the very back. So I have that spark plug wire separated from the rest of them. I have the spark plug wire going through the little sensor here. What's going to happen is every time that cylinder gets a spark, the light's going to fire. And that light, if it's top dead center, every time that harmonic balancer comes around, that mark that I marked with the white grease pencil, and you'll see that in a second, should line up to 0 with those little hash marks that are down there. It says 5, 0, 5, 10, 15. Now for internationals, technically, top dead center 0 is where you should have it. Most guys run it 5 to 10. It's one of those where you run it, you advance it as high before it starts pinging. A lot of guys will do what they call sort of power tuning it. Instead of using a timing light, what they'll do is they'll find a good hill where it's going to bog down the motor a little bit, and they essentially, if it starts pinging, which is kind of this noise that's hard to describe in the motor, this pinging noise, and then they'll stop, they'll back it off a little bit, bringing the timing back closer to 0. Say if they're up at 15, they'll bring it back, maybe back down to 12, and they'll charge that hill again, and they'll try and power tune it. If they get up the hill and there's no pinging, they'll leave it at 12, even though maybe the factory says to do it otherwise. Now the other one is, some mechanics say 1 degree, some mechanics say 2. It really depends, so you got a little variance there. But if this motor is at sea level, which is what it was tuned for, Seattle's at 300 feet above sea level, basically sea level, you have that tuned at 0 for every 1,000 feet. So if I went 4,000 feet, I'm gonna, if it's just 1 degree, I'm gonna advance it. I'm gonna advance it anywhere from 4 to 8. But we're gonna see what this is set out. If I remember correctly, I've got it set to about 5 or so. It just ran better when I power tuned it. So let's see what she says. Now obviously to do this test you have to have the engine running. I'm going to let it warm up to operating temperature before I actually do the timing. Make sure that the choke and the carb and everything is open and hot and running up to temp. But you can see over there the light going, and maybe before I warm it up, maybe I'll try and get the camera there so you can see what I'm looking at. Almost all the way warm. I expect the water to get up to closer to 190. Volts is good. Oil pressure is at 35, just fine. Now to really get your timing absolutely perfect, before you even attempt to time it, you really should know that your carburetor is set properly. There are default settings to a carburetor, and if you have them at that and you're idling at say 900 RPM, then you can go ahead and set your timing to the proper degree. And I'll set it up here and I'll move the distributor around. You can actually hear the engine bog down and advance a little bit, and what that's doing is it's adjusting where the rotor and the spark inside the distributor cap is hitting each spark plug. A little before, a little bit after, or right on. And that's all you're really doing is moving the housing, that's moving the cap. The inside stem of the distributor is essentially never going to move. But yeah, we're going to let her warm up and then we'll see what she does. Alright, we're going to take a look and I'm going to move it and probably put it at 10 and then I'll go drive it and see how it does. It's right at 10, so we're going to go try that, and that's how you time an International Scout. And last but not least, with the engine off, tighten that distributor back up. Alright, once you have it tightened up, the proper thing to do would be start the motor and recheck your timing to make sure that you didn't loosen the cap in the tightening process. Now I know a lot of guys that leave them slightly loose, so they're not easy to turn, but you can turn them if you want. Especially you talk to a lot of the guys in the Rocky Mountains, you know, their town could be at 4,000 feet. You can go up to a pass at 10, 11,000 feet, and you're going to have to change your timing according to your elevation. The other thing you might want to do is you can also rejet your carburetor, which I've never tried, but I might. It doesn't do much for, say, vacations or trips that you're taking, but if you're moving to an area, like I moved here, 4,000 feet isn't a whole lot, but it'd probably do me better to rejet that. I believe it came with a number 61. You actually want to give it less gas because you're in higher elevation. There's technically less oxygen at that elevation, so you want to give it less gas also. Otherwise, you're going to be air rich than or lean. I always get that backwards. Anyway, your mixture is going to be air heavy. It's not going to be balanced, and you'll know that if you ever follow an old truck up a mountain pass and he's almost just blowing black smoke out the back, and your eyes start to water, and you're like, what is with this guy? And it's just because his motor isn't, I guess, I don't know, lean or rich, whichever one it is, I always forget. It doesn't really matter as long as you know the concept, but he's getting more gas than air, and it's throwing it way off on his mixture. And it'll look like a diesel even though it's not. Any other questions? Alright, nobody raised their hand. That's how you time a Scout. Thanks, guys. Alright, so I touched on it a little bit with the Fiat, but every once in a while I like to seafoam in the intake. You can use seafoam in the gas, you can use seafoam in the motor oil, and you can also put it down the carburetor and kind of clean out the top injectors. We're going to do that and see how much smoke we can get out of it. Alright, well I waited about 10-12 minutes. My exhaust is right behind the tower, that's why I'm zooming in there. Same as the Fiat. I just while the motor was running, he slowly glug in about 1/3 of the bottle, and I'll start it up and we'll see what it should do. You can see it kind of does a good job. Pretty good little cloud, but I do it at least about once a year. I did it about 8 months ago, so I'm doing it a little bit early this year, but thought I would do it for video.